Morning students, I welcome you all in the syllabus of class 12th. Today we are going to begin with unit 1, that is electrostatics. Before we begin, we will discuss a little bit about the syllabus of class 12th and how all the units are linked with each other. So let us begin. So we are going to discuss in the beginning a very broad term that is called electromagnetism. Students, if you remember in class 11th, you have studied about basic forces in nature, the fundamental forces in nature, and in those forces, you discussed about gravitational force, electromagnetic force, nuclear strong force, and nuclear weak force. We have not studied there about electrical force separately and magnetic force separately. Instead, what we discussed that was electromagnetic force. So let us discuss what is the origin of this electromagnetic force, which includes both electricity and magnetism part. So we are going to discuss in the beginning about electromagnetism. What is it about? So for discussing about it, I'm going to take up your syllabus till unit 6. Let us see what is the link between all these units. First of all, in unit 1, we are going to discuss about electrostatics, where we are going to study about charges at rest. Electro term comes from charges and statics comes from at rest. So in unit 1, we are going to study those phenomenon, those terms, those physical quantities which originate when the charges are at rest. Then in your unit 2, we are going to discuss about current electricity. As you already know that current is the motion of charges in a particular direction. So when we are talking about current electricity, we necessarily mean the charges in motion. So in unit 2, we are going to discuss about those physical quantity and phenomenon which originate when we are studying about charges in motion. Then in unit 3, we are going to discuss about magnetic effects of current. Magnetic effects of current, as we have studied in class 10th also, we are going to study how magnetism is generated with the effect of current. Magnetic field due to a current carrying straight conductor, circular conductor, solenoid, all these things show whenever there is current, there will be magnetism. So, unit 3 will relate magnetism with electricity. Then in unit 4 we are going to discuss about electromagnetic induction. That also you have studied in class 10th. There we are going to say that magnetism is also a source of electricity. When we discuss about electromagnetic induction and we say whenever there is a change in magnetic flux linked with the coil, current is induced in the coil, that shows magnetism becomes a source of electricity. Now till now we have studied about charges at rest, then charges in motion. Then we found charges in motion is a source of magnetic field. Then we studied that magnetic field is a source of electricity. And ultimately, in Unit 5, both of these concepts will be clubbed together, where, with the help of Maxwell and Lorentz, it was found that electricity and magnetism they are both source of each other, and electricity and magnetism cannot be studied separately. Instead, they are clubbed together, they are source of each other, and the whole study is known as electromagnetism. So in unit 5 we are going to discuss about the production of electromagnetic waves, and we will show that electricity and magnetism are the source of each other. Ultimately, in Unit 6 Optics, we are going to see that light is nothing but an electromagnetic wave where electric field and magnetic field are the source of light, which makes a part of optics. Okay, so this is about your first 6 units of the syllabus of class 12th. And now we are going to primarily focus on electrostatics, that is your unit number 1. So, various topics that we are going to study, those are shown on your screen. So, we'll take them up one by one. Students, remember, I'm going to take up only the study of discrete charges as of now. Discrete charges like point charges, like 1 charge, 2 charge, 10 charges, and so on. In addition to that, we have in our syllabus some situations where we do not have countable number of charges. Instead, we have uniform distribution. That uniform distribution part I will take up along with Gauss's theorem. So that I am leaving as of now. Sorry. So as we have already discussed, electrostatics is nothing but the study of charges at rest. So before we move on further, let us discuss about what is the meaning of a charge. Students, you already know that there are two types of charges, that is positive and negative. We all know an atom is made up of a nucleus which contains positive charges, that is protons, and electrons surround that nucleus which revolve in circular paths as per the Bohr's theory. And we know the total number of electrons which are revolving around the nucleus is same as that of number of protons in the interior in the nucleus. As a result, the net charge of an atom is zero. However, if there is a difference in number of protons and electrons, which may occur because of giving some additional electrons to the atom or by taking out some of the electrons of the atom, then in that case that atom will become an ion and it will become charged. So let us see what is charge. Electric charge is a physical property of matter that cause it to experience a force when placed in electromagnetic field. Students, we know whenever we place a mass in the gravitational field, it experiences a force because a mass relates or it interacts with the gravitational field the same way a charge interacts with an electromagnetic field. So, whenever a particle is experiencing a force when placed in electromagnetic field, that means it has got certain charge. So there are two types of charges as we have already discussed, that is positive for example of a proton and negative for example of an electron. So like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other, that also you already know from your experience. An object with an absence of net charge is referred to as neutral, just like a normal atom which is having equal amount of positive and negative charge. An object acquire positive charge after losing electrons and negative charge after gaining them. This is the important part. What we need to understand is these are only electrons which are responsible for the charge of a material or an object. Uh, an object will acquire charge only because of either excess of electrons or deficiency of electrons. Protons cannot be moved out from the nucleus, nor we can give them inside, nor we can put them inside the nucleus. So the only thing which will give rise to the positive as well as negative charge on an object will be solely due to the movement of electrons. So either something loses electrons and gains positive charge, or gains electrons and acquires negative charge. So now we are going to discuss about the methods of charging, how an object will acquire charge. So we are going to discuss about three of such methods. The first one is by friction. Students, I believe you all must have tried this activity in your lower classes itself. When we rub a comb or a plastic scale with our dry hair and then we try to use it to pick up small paper bits from a table. So what do we observe? When we rub that comb, plastic comb or a plastic scale with the dry hair, then there is friction between both of those materials, and because of that there is a sharing of electrons. As a result, our hair as well as the plastic comb, they acquire charge. So by friction, we mean frictional electricity is the electricity produced by rubbing two suitable bodies and the transfer of electrons from one body to another. The binding energy of electrons is different in different materials. So as a result, when we rub our hair with the dry plastic comb, then there is a sharing of electrons. One of the materials will lose electrons and in turn the other material will gain electrons. As a result, one of them become positively charged and other becomes negatively charged. And once that charged comb is brought close to paper bits, then what happens? It attracts them. Now, electron in glass are loosely bound in it than the electrons in silk. If we rub a glass rod with a silken cloth or maybe with wool, then what happens? One of the materials will gain electrons and another will lose them. And which material will gain, which will lose, that all depend upon the binding energy of the electrons in that particular material, that we will see later on in our table, that when we rub to any pair of the given materials, which one will gain electrons and which one will lose them. So once we rub that glass rod with a silken cloth, then what happens? The glass become positively charged by losing electrons and silk become negatively charged by gaining electrons. In the case of plastic comb and hair, plastic comb gains electrons from our hair and hair lose electron. As a result, plastic comb is negatively charged and our hair are positively charged. So similarly, if we talk about an ebonite, ebonite is a material. If we rub ebonite with fur, in that case, the electrons in the fur are loosely bound than in ebonite. That means to say ebonite will gain electrons and fur will lose electrons. As a result, what will happen? The ebonite will acquire negative charge and fur will acquire positive charge. So as you could see here in the table, if we rub glass with silk, then what will happen? Glass will acquire positive charge and silk will acquire negative charge. If I rub wool or phenol with amber, ebonite, rubber or plastic, you can again see which material will gain positive and which one will gain negative charge. Similarly about ebonite and polythene, and then dry hair and comb. Okay, that was the first method of charging, that was by rubbing or by friction. Second method is by conduction. So let us discuss what is the meaning of conduction. Conduction means when a charged object comes in contact with another object, and another object may be charged, may not be charged. In that case, under what situations there will be a transfer of charge, that will depend upon a certain physical quantity which is known as electric potential. You have studied about it a little bit in your class 10th. However, later on in this unit itself, we are going to discuss that in detail. So that is a physical quantity which will decide whether there will be a sharing of charge or not. But suppose if the electric potential of two given materials is not same and then we bring them into contact, then there will be a transfer of charge by actual contact. When there is a sharing of charge by actual contact between two objects, that is called as charging by conduction. Here I have taken one example where we have a charged sphere which is placed on an insulating pad. Why do we place it on an insulating pad? So that charge from this sphere does not leak to earth. That's why we have kept it over an insulating stand. Insulating stand can be anything like a plastic box or maybe a wooden table, something like that, over which a charged object is placed. Then we bring it in contact with another object which is uncharged. Then what will happen? Charge from this charged object will go to this uncharged object and some of the charge will appear on this object as well. How much amount of charge will go to the second sphere? So let me call this as sphere A and this as sphere B. Then how much charge will go to sphere B? That depends upon its size, its material and so on. Basically, it depends upon its electric potential. The charge will keep on flowing from A to B until the potential of both the spheres become equal. So, when the charge has been shared because of actual physical contact between A and B, that method of charging will be called as charging by conduction. Next method is charging by induction. Charging by induction occurs when we actually do not bring two objects in contact. Instead, the effect occurs from a distance. Now suppose we are having again similar situation. We are having a sphere A which is charged and another sphere B which is uncharged. In that case, I have simply brought the sphere B close to A. As a result, I am considering A and B both to be metallic spheres in which the movement of electron is freely possible. In that situation, when I bring B close to A, then all, because A I have considered here to be positively charged, the electrons inside B will get attracted due to positive charge of A and will align on the nearer side of sphere sphere B, sorry. And similarly, the positive charge will be left behind, will feel a repulsion, right? Even after this redistribution of charge inside B, B is still uncharged. Why is it uncharged? Because the equal amount of positive and negative charge is still present. The charges which have exist on the surface of B are called as induced charges, which are there as long as sphere A is here. If I remove A from here, the charge inside B will again get redistributed and it will again acquire the same situation as it was there beforehand. Now, what happens if I earth B? Earthing means to say if I'm standing on earth and I touch B, then I'm providing a place, I'm providing a channel through which charge can flow to earth. That is what we call as earthing. So if I provide earthing, we symbolize it in this way. Uh, that does not mean that I have to connect a wire only. I can touch it with my own body, provided my feet are connected with earth and charge can flow to earth through my body. A human body is a good conductor, so through our body charge can flow. So in that situation, what will happen? Whole of this positive charge will flow to earth, and what we will be left with? Only negative charge on B. Now the question arises, why negative charge will not flow? As you can clearly see, A is positively charged, and when we place it close to B, then this negative charge is feeling attraction due to this positive charge. This charge, which is negative charge lying on the nearer side of the sphere, this charge is bound charge because it is bound with this positive charge. On the other hand, the positive charge on the farther side of this sphere is unbound. Why is it unbound? Because it is feeling repulsion due to this sphere A. And when I will earth it, then only unbound charge will leak to earth, and as a result the charge remaining on B will only be negative charge. So what I will be left with now, charge on A will be as it is, as it was earlier. However, on B the charge will be only negative charge after earthing. And afterwards, if I remove A from here, the charge on B will get uniformly distributed. And by this method, the charge acquired on B will be called charging by induction, because we have actually not brought A in contact with B. Instead, we have done the earthing. If we will not do the earthing, the B will not acquire any charge, it will remain uncharged. But by earthing, the second sphere B will acquire certain charge, which will be called charging by induction. And while we charge by induction, we can see the charge acquired on the second material will be of opposite polarity. If A was positive, B will get negative charge. In the case of conduction, if A was positive, B will also be positive. Charging by friction, one of the material will acquire positive charge and another will acquire negative charge. So that's all for today. So remaining part we will take up tomorrow. Thank you.